All right, folks, we're going to kick things off tonight with Evenings with Artifacts, all things ephemera and paper. If you are new to our evening series tonight, we are doing interactive workshops this season for Evenings with Artifacts. We're going to be walking through how to artifact all things paper tonight. We're going to give you a chance to follow along at home, either on your app if you're using the app, or on your desktop. And hopefully you get to make your own artifacts as we go through tonight's presentation. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. We love getting questions from you all. If you want to share what you're artifacting, we love to see that too. And if you have any thoughts or comments, those are always welcome as well. Before we dive into tonight's topic, we wanted to kind of surface some of the fun facts we learned about paper, greeting cards in particular, with you all to set the stage of why sometimes paper can be so overwhelming and can create a lot of clutter in our lives, even if we don't intend it to be so. So we dug up some stats from the American Greeting Card Association. And yes, that is a thing. There is an association for greeting cards in America. And according to the association, every year Americans buy 6.5 billion greeting cards. That's billion with a B. And you can see I've got my own collection right here. Of those 6.5 billion greeting cards that Americans purchase every year, 61% of Americans keep those cards for more than 6 months. I know I am very guilty of keeping cards for years, if not decades. Another fun fact is that the average American has 17 greeting cards in their collection at any given moment, which Ellen and I think that's a little low. That, or we're just really big overachievers because we happen to have a lot of greeting cards in our collections and notes and so forth and so on. Ellen even has a really fun way of how she deals with her greeting cards. I think she's going to share with us before we dive into the nitty gritty of how to artifact those paper items.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to. So I don't have an abundance of storage space in my 1970s home. And so that really is a good deterrent from accumulating too much stuff. Whereas my parents have this like multi-level, thousands of square feet, and they just stash stuff everywhere. So I have a box and all of my ephemera. So it's not just cards, but you can see on top is a card. Everything goes in here that I'm not ready to recycle immediately. And when the box gets full, I go through it and I either am finally emotionally ready to recycle it, or I artifact and recycle, or it goes into my purple bin. And I'll pop it into chat. We wrote an article about the purple bin. I think everybody should get to have a purple bin. And that's something that's off limits from downsizing and decluttering. It's my safe space for things that I really want to keep. And in here, I want to show you, it really isn't just cards. Like I have this flip book from my daughter, and it's in here too, right? And I just haven't decided what to do with it, but I'm also not ready to get rid of it. So my strategy, my little tip that I wanted to share is for all these little bits and things that you keep, maybe just limit yourself to how much you keep and go through it. And it's enjoyable to go through it too. And remember how much people love you.
I will agree with that. I will admit, before Artifacts, I was the one that had multiple bins of cards and letters safely stored under not just our bed, but our children's beds as well. For those of you who tuned into other episodes, you'll often hear me joke about how my husband's the maximalist and I tend to be more minimalist, except when it comes for ephemera. I was the one that would go to a museum and keep every single brochure from every single museum I've ever visited. If you ever sent me a card, I would have kept that card. So now that we have artifacts, I am much better, and I have adopted Ellen's strategy. I limit myself to the drawer in my nightstand table. I do happen to have a very large nightstand table, so I can fit piles and piles of cards until I have to decide what to get rid of. But I have over time whittled away at my collection, keeping the ones that really do mean the most, and then artifacting the others and being able to let go and not feel guilty or be worried about what happens if I don't remember that or what happens if I lose that. Because that's the other thing too. There's a sentimental piece of keeping it because of the memories, because of the emotions. But then there's also the flip side of what if something happens and you don't have a record of it? None of us can control Mother Nature, no matter how much we'd like to try to. But floods, hurricanes, fires, even, we aren't in control of that. So for me, I've got peace of mind having artifacted the really special ones.
Termites. We have someone here from North Carolina. I was scarred for life by termites in North Carolina. They're everywhere, but they will eat through all this stuff. Keep going.
So I'm going to start sharing our screen and get into this our workshop tonight. I'm going to first share, I've cheated, I've logged in. I'm going to share some of my favorites that I've done so you can see what a collection of ephemera may look like when you're using artifacts. So as Ellen noted earlier, it's not just greeting cards. I am also the worst offender when it comes to bibs from races my family and I have run. I used to save every single bib from every 5K, 10K, and half marathon. But I was very proud of myself that one of the last races we ran, I artifacted our bib numbers. And then in the artifact, I included photos of us pre and post race. So it's now not just a bib somewhere in the drawer, but I now have the photos and the story and links to previous races we've won with our race times. So for me, it was a really neat way to tell the story and put it together. And then because it was my daughter's first 10K ever, I was able to securely and privately share it with her. And now she'll never forget that moment. She's going to have dozens and dozens of races in her life, but that's her first. And we have it artifacted. Um, you may have seen this one before in different examples we've done, but post-it notes. I'll keep some of these. This is one from COVID. And it was really funny because my daughter gave herself a snow day back when we were homeschooling. And she decided she wasn't going to go to school anymore. She's going to go sledding. But she knew her siblings would always lock the doors. So she popped a post-it note on the back door, as you can see. And I almost tossed this. But for me in the moment, I thought it was super sweet and super cute. And I wanted to preserve that moment, preserve that memory. And I will say that nowadays, had I not artifacted this, I probably wouldn't remember this moment. But now that it's artifacted, it's one of my favorite artifacts, one of my daughter's favorite artifacts. And whenever I need a laugh on a really tough day, this is the one I go to. It always makes me smile. It always makes me laugh. But it's a great example of ephemera, where it's not, this post-it note is not going to probably stand the test of time for generations to come, but the memory will now that we've artifacted it. In the ephemera category, we also have kids art. If you are working with a family or you have your own family, kids and grandkids, they're prolific artists. It's a great way to artifact and save it. And then, yes, of course, greeting cards. One of my most often artifacted items are the greeting cards. And I do it because not only for the card itself, but I love this being able to see the handwriting and read the notes that are actually in the cards. And then in some cases, depending what the cards are, I can connect it with different events or the person that gave me the card. So I can easily start going through and seeing a story that is not just about the cards, but it's about other people, places, things we've done together. And it's a really fun way to view that and be able to remember. And to Ellen's point, enjoy going back and reviewing it over time. Another category, again, maps, brochures, pamphlets. These are all great things that make really interesting artifacts, if depending how you group them together, or maybe they stand alone. So these are some of my personal examples of different artifacts in the ephemera category. Tonight's workshop, we are going to be working through the Inspiration Series checklist, our Get Papered. We can pop this link into chat for you. But if you're staring at a bin of cards or letters or other paper items and you're not sure where to start, we have this checklist to help you get started, to give you ideas. Some of our ones that we've seen over the years, our Artifacts community members have done. favorite pieces of sheet music, and then someone actually playing the music that goes with it. Maybe you're a collector of playbills or ticket stubs. Remember ticket stubs back in the days? Um, Make great artifacts, certificates, awards, diplomas, report cards. This is one where I'll share a family story. My mother-in-law pulled out, this is last winter, we were artifacting with her as she was downsizing. She pulled out a bin of old report cards from my husband and his two brothers. And my husband went on to be an engineer and amazing career. And according to him, straight A student. No, no, no. My mother-in-law had evidence to the contrary. He was not a straight A student, certainly not in elementary school. And we were dying of laughter going through the old report cards, the old comments. Ellen's got a really great example about one where she artifacted from her own, I think it was kindergarten, right, Ellen?
Oh yeah, in the first quarter, I guess, report card, the note was Ellen's got a little too much energy. She needs to like settle down in class. And then by the end of the year, Ellen's energy is the great asset that we embrace in our classroom. So, it's all subjective.
Another one is old calendars. How many folks are still holding on to old calendars out there? This is one of those items where after my mother passed away and I was going through her stuff, I came across drawers and drawers of old calendars. And at first, I was incredibly grateful because it was a snapshot into my mother's life, even like people and places and activities. But by the time I got to the 20th calendar or so, I very quickly was wondering, what on earth am I supposed to do with them? And I was a little worried, like I didn't want to just toss them out because it had her handwriting, right? It had her notes on the margins. It had like little like notes to self. But I had no use for them, especially not calendars that were a decade plus old. What I ended up doing back before Artifacts was I took a photo of some of them or certain months where we had family birthdays or where she made certain notes that I didn't know what the note meant, but I was really intrigued. So I took photos. I now have it on my list to go back and actually artifact them, like go through the photos now, since they're years and years and years back on my phone, dig up those photos and create an artifact just of her old calendars. Because when the photos are sitting on my phone, it's doing me no good whatsoever. But in the end, I decided not to keep the calendars just because I didn't have space for them, but it was a really tough decision because of the emotion, the sentiment involved. But that is where, again, I think ephemera, when you're dealing with ephemera, it's really hard to let go of because of the emotion, because of the sentiment, because of the memories. And there's something to be said about someone's handwriting. When you have that handwriting in a card or on a calendar or on a report card, it's tough to toss it because it's a connection with that individual. So with artifacts, we hope to make it easy and fun going through and preserving, and then also sharing with maybe family or friends what you've artifacted. So with that, I'm going to jump in and let's go through an example together tonight. If you're following along at home, you can again use your desktop like we're going to be using, or you can use your app. Everything you see us do in the desktop tonight, we can also do on the app. And in the app, you have the added bonus of being able to talk to text. So if you don't want to type up that story, that's great. You can use the app, talk to text, and you're good to go. So I'm going to go back to my artifacts collection. And I'm going to quickly move our little Zoom screen so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to click the plus sign. Remember, I'm already logged in. You can see me logged in here with my profile. I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to add a new artifact. So I knew tonight I was going to be artifacting. What I'm artifacting tonight is that Christmas card you might have seen on top of the stack of cards I showed you at the beginning. But this is a card my husband gave me back in 2022 Christmas. It's got a really funny story behind it, some really great memories. We took the whole family out to Colorado that year for a ski holiday. So I'm gonna, when I'm creating the artifact, I first upload my files. Any artifact can have up to 5 media files, so photo, video, and audio. I'm gonna pull the files from my device since I've already downloaded them from my phone. I'm gonna quickly do this. Pop into download, pick the three. And while they're uploading, I can get started on name my artifact. I'm going to call it Christmas card from 2022. And then what is it? So we know that our Artifacts community members love artifacting ephemera. We even have an entire category under Life's Moments just for postcards, letters, and cards. So I'm going to pick postcards, letters, and cards. That's my category. All right. And excuse the shadows. I took the photo at night, so there are shadows there. I can go back and touch it up. I could always add a caption if I wanted to add a caption, or I could crop it, a square crop, or I could rotate it. I don't need to add a caption right now, so I'm going to click save. Same thing with the inside note of the card. And then this is a photo of us on that Christmas morning, kind of being a little silly with our dog. I'm going to click save as well. And now that I have these files, I actually want to make this the cover. So when you are artifacting, you can choose what media file is the cover. What are they going to see when you make the artifact? So I'm going to make this the cover, pop it over here, and then I want it to go in order. I want this photo to actually be last. There we go. So now it's the front of the card, the open view of the card, and then the photo of us on Christmas morning. All right, I've got the media files all sorted. I'm going to write a quick story. The beauty with artifacts, you can always go back and add more. So either if you're working with a loved one, you're working with kids, if you're working with a client, if you're an organizer or a downsizer or a move manager, or even just artifacting on your own, if you can't remember all the details or just want to quickly get something in there, you can always go back and edit. So I'm going to say one of my favorite cards, great memories. I'll go back and add more later. If I ever get stuck though with what I'm writing, when I'm writing my story, you can pop on the little light bulb and get some writing tips. So if you're working with some of your artifacting, like with a parent or a sibling or a child, great place to start, or even a client. All right, now I've got country of origin, pick US. Nope, I don't need to make it my default right now. I do a lot of traveling, so a lot of my artifacts are all over the world. In the future, so reality is I don't expect my children to keep all the cards I've kept. So I'm going to say as you wish. There is no guilt here. If they want to keep it when I'm no longer here, great, they can do so. They want to recycle it, fabulous, let them do so. But we'll do that. If I was artifacting this and getting rid of it, I could pick too late. I already parted with it, enjoyed the memory. But I'm going to pick as you wish. Because for now, this card is still going to be in my nightstand table. And then tags. So this is a really fun part of when you are artifacting, how to easily sort and search through your artifacts. So I have one for family travel. Since this is a family trip, I'm going to pop in family travel. I also have one of items, either cards or gifts my husband's given me. So I'm going to say from Matt with love. That's my second tag. Perfect. All right. I don't want to make it public. Every time you make an artifact, all artifacts are by default private. If I wanted to make it public, I could toggle the switch. However, I'm going to keep it private. I'm going to click save. And now we can see our handiwork as it's thinking. I'm going to show you another one of my favorite features once this saves. I'm going to show you how we view this on a timeline. Because if you're anything like me and you keep these ephemera objects or items for years and years and years, as you artifact them, you can create a timeline of all those memories, all of those moments. And I'm not sure why this is clicking away as we save. It's thinking. There we go. And just to note, if I wanted to share this, since I do want to share this with my husband, I'm going to pop him in and say, remember when? And then I have the option to either, as default, he gets viewer access. I could also give him editor access and say, dear husband, fill in the details. Why did you pick this card? Or, what were you thinking when you wrote the card? Not in a bad way, but just out of curiosity. Sometimes you love knowing the details behind the item or the reason why it was given to you. So you can give them editor access or even full control. But I'll keep it at view access. I'm going to click share. And we're off and running. And now you can see the artifact that we just made. And if you're following along at home, feel free to share with us. There it is. There's the artifact right there. I'm gonna pop it open. You can see what the completed artifact looks like. There we go. I could always, again, go in and edit. I could choose to download. If I'm saving it, put the QR code on the back of the card. The kids know why I saved this card, what matters. All right. I do want to quickly show you all, since I do have a number of artifacts in the ephemera category, I do want to show you in my timeline view what it looks like when I go and choose, oops, let me get down here, Life's Moments, Postcards, Letters, and Cards. Here we go. I can literally walk through time and see all of the items I have saved with postcards, letters, cards, you name it. And it's a really, for me, it's a really fun way to reminisce um, and not have every last card or letter sitting in my nightstand drawer. So with that, I'm going to turn the screen share over to Ellen and let her walk through one of her items she's going to share with you.
Here we go. I did pop in an article while Heather was chatting about how to take pictures. Heather knows how to take pictures. She was just being lazy with the shadows, folks. So anyway, we do have tips here. So I wanted to share that. I have a few artifacts to share with you from diverse areas of my artifacting. One that has gotten a lot of attention with my family is a genealogy document that there was one remaining copy of. And you can see here this beautiful, I think, cursive scrolled writing. And even though my daughter learned cursive, she has struggled to read this. And I struggled because then they would like turn the page and write on the margins. And so I actually spent time to type it all out and then share it with my family, meaning my aunts, uncles, and cousins. I have a circle that I created on Artifacts, and I shared it to the circle with all of these people. And you can see here in the documents that I have the original. So I actually used my phone. Most phones are built in with an app. If you have a great scanner at home, you can do that too, but you can scan the document and make a single PDF. That's what I did here is I made a single PDF with the original. And then I also attached a Word document where I made a rough transcription of it and shared this with my family. So now everybody has all of these details, at least according to me, the best I could do. But when you share a document, an artifact that has documents, you can opt to share the document or not. And so you can see that I did share the document access. By default, when you share, that's not the case. So let me show you what happens if I try and share this with Heather. You see here that it says share viewer access to the artifacts documentation too. I can click that box if I want Heather to have access to the documents. By default, it's no, because we always err on the side of privacy. We don't know what you're attaching, and we don't want you to accidentally share information you don't intend to share. Heather doesn't care about my genealogy. I'm not sharing it with her. Another great example. I don't know about you all, and when we were waiting for everyone to join, I shared this true story. I was talking with a move manager who was helping a family relocate. They had multiple rooms of boxes of paper, and among the paper boxes was a lot of schoolwork, and I'm slightly guilty of this. I think we did like 6 moves as adults where we took like all of our notebooks and documents from graduate school and even undergrad with us. But why? Like, I'm not going to relearn all that. My daughter doesn't want my notes. Like, what was I going to do with that? I don't know. And in that box was this report that I had done when I was a graduate student at Duke. And I was so taken and touched by the professor's comments in it that I kept it for a really long time. And it was when I was making this artifact, I actually saw that he passed away. So I artifacted the document. The actual document is attached. I found the original doc file and I didn't scan this as a result. I just took a picture of the cover. I took a picture of his notes that so touched me, and I attached in the documentation again the original file. And one last example I want to share, and this is actually a really interesting conversation I had with a professional photo organizer just yesterday. We were talking about when you scan a photo or you use an app like PhotoMine to digitize photos as well as documents like this newspaper. Um, and the question was, do you like it to be retouched so that you are maximizing the contrast and making it really easy to read? Or are you trying to capture the photo or the document as it exists today, which might mean it's yellowed and aged and the colors have shifted on the photo? I don't know how many people know this. I met a gentleman with a photo industry background. When we produced all those photos, we printed singles and doubles and triples of all of these photos back in the day from our 35mm film. At best, they were supposed to last like 12 years. Like, that's crazy, right? And then the everything starts shifting. So when I created this artifact, I didn't actually care too much about what the newspaper was talking about. Certainly not the entirety. I really wanted the headline. And then I had my master's thesis. It all ties together in the story that I tell. And so I took a picture of the newspaper. I wanted it to look yellowed and aged. And I retained it as was. And again, I attached the original document file. I did not go ahead and scan the full original report that I did when I was at Duke. I didn't need it because I had the file, but even if I hadn't, I don't know if I would have. But all of that to say, when you're doing ephemera, having access to a great scanner or using the app that comes with your phone or using an enhanced app like PhotoMine becomes something really, really helpful to you. It just keeps it less expensive and in your control. But when you do have a lot of it, that's when we recommend talking with some experts that we've met through time that can help you go through it and digitize it properly, and even now Artifact as well. So those are a few I wanted to share.
And one of our questions for you all tonight is, what types of ephemera are you tackling? What do you feel overwhelmed by? What is holding you up from either decluttering or downsizing, or you just have a lot of and you're not sure where to start? And Ellen, we've got a question from Allison. Would you recommend the Adobe Scan app if you have an Adobe account?
Oh yeah, I've actually used that one. It's really easy to use. I'm not great at a lot of them, to be honest, but yeah, I mean, those are great. I think that when it comes down to digitizing anything, you just have to know what your goal is, right? So for example, if you're digitizing a photo, do you need the highest resolution possible? And you're going to want this beautiful TIFF file that's going to be really large and will give you the most freedom to edit and enlarge. Or are you going for good enough? You can make a 5x7 and whatever, but like you don't need it to be perfection. There's differences there between what you would use, whether it's going to be a nice scanner or an app.
Great, thank you. And Melissa adds lots of old roadmaps. Ooh, that's really interesting, Melissa. How to artifact them since maps are so big. This includes brochures too. Ellen, looks like you've got some thoughts there. You're all smiles.
Well, so it's Melissa, it's ironic. So my neighbor is also from the South, and she has these big old maps from where her family like had property for like centuries, kind of thing. Okay, not too many centuries. How old is the US? But for a very long time, multiple generations, she has these big old maps. And I just told her her only hope is that we actually have an archivist that we know here in Austin. And I recommended she take the maps to the archivist because they actually have a scanner that goes across a big table. It hangs above and it will scan and digitize the entire map. But that's because she wants really high quality, and she wants to be able to frame it ultimately as well. So she's going for a double win. So I think that if it's something that you are trying to preserve intentionally, I would find a local archivist. You can also go into like a camera store if you have one locally, or you can go to the photomanagers.com and look and see if there's a photo manager, because photo managers and archivists, they kind of work hand in hand a lot. They'll know of each other and be able to refer people to you. And then I think brochures are a little bit different because those tend to be scannable on your own if you have a flatbed scanner or go to your local library and use theirs.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you, Ellen. And Melissa, I popped some examples of publicly viewable maps people have artifacted. The second one is really interesting because it also includes an audio file. So the individual that artifacted that wanted to ensure that they're able to tell the story and not just have someone look at the map, because maybe not everyone can understand what the map is showing or understands what's significant about what's on the map. So one of the beautiful things with artifacts is you can artifact the actual map, but then add in either audio or video, highlighting key points or key details. So it's not just a static map.
I was trying to find your, there we go. I was trying to bring it up on the screen for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the example where there's a map of a historical dig site, but then there's also an audio file that describes it. And Sylvia says, I still have bins of my kids' school things. I thought I'd scrapbook some of it, or at least use some as reference or information. I have, though, to be fair, downsized the mass so it's not so big, but it's still a lot. Yes.
I think the kid stuff is a great target, right? It's a nice
Yeah.
place to start, and it depends on how old your kids are too, but it's delightful when you can get them to tell you about it. And on that point, I want to show you, I was talking with someone today, when you go to your landing page on Artifacts, like I clicked on my picture of my daughter and me up in the right here. You go to your landing page, and you can go to your tags and see all of your tags, and they're clickable, right? And it's laugh out loud funny to me that my daughter is my top tag, but it's because she has so much stuff and I refuse to keep it all. And so I think that's a great target. And you'll see I have a like camp mail. That's great. I have an envelope with a hair snippet. Not so great. Cards from her, artwork, all of this stuff that and stuff decays. That's the other thing. People don't think about that, but like it's going to decay. And if you want to preserve it, just do it fast. That's my recommendation. So I recommend too, when you're doing kids stuff like artwork, you can do years as well. Like you can have like, I could have done violet as a tag. I could also do, first grade, second grade, third grade, things like that can be very helpful as well.
And then when you click on those tags, you can quickly see what did my child do in kindergarten or what did they do in fifth grade.
Yeah.
It's a really, rather than trying to scroll through your phone and figure out like what year was that? What month was it? Where is it in those 10,000, 20,000 photos I have? It makes it super, super duper simple to pull up and find, which is
Well, and
one
I
of the
think it's fun too for what Sylvia is saying. I just see her comment now. Like, Sylvia, I think you got to give yourself grace. You're right. Like, you've done such a good job. But I think it's fun if you share an artifact with them and it has a good memory with it. And then use that to ask them, like, do you want to go through this? Like, do you want to see what else there is? Because at some point you got to make it their problem, not your problem, if you don't want to hang on to it.
And I'm also going to pop into chat another article that we did, looking at giving some examples, but also some tips and tricks for how to artifact that ephemera. And how do you combine that, card with the photo from the trip or with the video or with the audio? How do you put them together? Or like in Ellen's examples, how do you attach original documentation to it if you're doing genealogy research? Or you're artifacting your master's or PhD thesis. How do you put those different pieces together to tell the story? And the story itself is what's going to be really memorable to your family and to your friends, whoever you decide to share it with, because they may not remember, like, oh, back in 2002, mom wrote this thesis on this topic, blah, blah, blah. They have the artifact and they have, they will remember the newspaper article with the bananas and the thesis is there and all those details are there. And being able to either tag or highlight, like hyperlink to different articles or different people, places in that artifact, you are able to tell that story in a way that is very memorable to your family.
And Heather, you have another great strategy for ephemera, and I can see one behind you. Heather tends to frame a lot of her ephemera. Do you want to give some good examples? I have some in mind.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I do, that is the things that I said I'm actually really going to keep. like those one or two pieces of amazing kid artwork from over the years, I will frame it. And then I pop the QR code on the back of the frame.
Okay,
So
you
it's
went
not,
too easy. Hold on, Heather. Not just kid art. How about the hotel key cards?
yes, let me do that. Let me pull that one up. I artifacted hotel key cards.
Going too
I've
easy with kid art.
artifacted kit art, or artifacted and framed kit art. Let me go back to sharing my screen and I'll get that pulled up for you all to see. And I wish I had that example here because I'd show you the QR codes on the back, but it is really silly sometimes when you look at it and then you flip it over and the kids love scanning the QR codes, up pops the story. Let me see. Forget what I use the tag on, but I remember the name. Here we go. So these hotel key cards from St. Croix, I did frame these as little bright pop color in our bathroom, which I love. And I've got the artifact, I've got the inside, the outside. Again, something I would have kept in a box and never looked at, but now I have them framed. I've got, when you go down to the QR code, this is where I say pop a QR code on the back of the frame. This is how you can do it. You can either print the QR code and simply print it out, safely adhere it to the back. I'm not sure actually, is my screen sharing?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. Adhere it to the back. Or you can also use our QR code stickers, which are, now that we have the stickers, I will admit I no longer print the QR codes. I simply pop the sticker on, scan the sticker, and link the QR code to the actual artifact. But it's a really fun way to link the story with the physical item. Trying to think of some of the other
You
ephemera.
also have that license plate behind you.
I do. I have my husband's old license plate behind us. He actually, one of the other things, business cards. He has artifacted and framed previous business cards that he's had over the years. I've yet to do that, although I do have it on my list of things to artifact. But there's really, when you stop and think about ephemera and all those pieces of paper, even just taking a look at your desk, right? What is sitting on your desk right now? What needs to be on your desk? What could you artifact and get off your desk? I don't know what that is.
Not my desk. Basketball card, folks. No, this is not my
I think that's an assignment for your husband to artifact.
desk.
But you can start small. You can take your desk. You could take your kitchen junk drawer. And I did that last summer. I gave myself the assignment of my kitchen junk drawer and I artifacted a matchbook. I artifacted a stub of a hockey ticket and I artifacted a postcard that our daughter had sent us from summer camp. So little things I was even keeping that had hidden into the kitchen junk drawer, I was able to artifact and then recycle those. Although I did keep the postcard from camp. It's still on my nightstand table.
I'm laughing, folks. So I have a series of cards that I make. I use stick figures because I don't like to, well, I just don't spend a lot of time on art. But I'm realizing on my husband's desk, he has like I got him these cycling glasses so for his birthday. So I made the stick person wear the glasses on his card. And then one time I was made a conversation card of him and I sitting on the couch thinking different thoughts. And then, he turned 44. And so, I mean, our 19th wedding anniversary, like, I can't believe we're all sitting here. Like, he really needs to get going on the artifacting. And there's, happy 18th anniversary. I mean, he's really behind, but they're all sitting here on his desk.
I think he just proved the point that there's at least 17 cards somewhere in all of our houses at this point in time.
And I see he has a card that is it's a letter from camp from our daughter because she's always at camp during Father's Day. So that's really cute too.
So folks, if you are feeling at all overwhelmed by the paper stuff, go through the checklist. It's really meant to be a tool to help you get through. And you can take, again, you can take it like location by location, be it your desk, be it a junk drawer, be it a nightstand table, be it maybe a bin of those cards that are under your bed or in your closet or in the attic. Because as Ellen said, paper deteriorates. It's not going to last forever. But either take it location by location or take it topic by topic in the checklist and use it as a resource to help you get through all that ephemera. And when you start artifacting it, I think Ellen said this earlier, but it's a really great way to feel really good because you're recalling all these happy memories. I don't think any of us are saving cards that we don't like. We're saving cards that we love that have happy moments tied to them. So when you start artifacting them, it's a great way to go through and kind of remember those moments. Ellen.
We have a question about where the dates in the timeline come from that I want to quickly answer. So when you create an artifact, you can have date information in the full form. So I'm going to quickly share my screen and show you what that looks like. And then I'm going to show you what to do if you're like me and often forget to add the date information. So we'll do it both ways. So here, I'm going to switch into timeline view. Here we go. Okay, so I have all these artifacts, and if I see an artifact and I'm thinking it's in the wrong place, like this is from a Broadway show, a playbill, I can click on it and drag it to the correct year. It lights up 2023, 2024, and drop it. And it will say, when does this artifact belong? And I can say when I acquired it or how old it is. You know, a little bit difference because when I got it, when it came to me, it could still be hundreds of years old, but I got it at the shop, you know, yesterday, versus how old it is. So where you put it in your timeline is where you want to see it. And that's why we make it very flexible. But these same pieces of date information are in your artifacts. So when I go here to create a new artifact, or if I go into edit an artifact, when you edit an artifact, you're automatically in the full form up here in the top right. So when you create your artifact, you have these same when acquired by you and how old it is. For how old it is, you can choose an exact year, approximately, or a century. We do have a lot of collectors, they have a lot of older things. So if you create an artifact and it already has this date information, it'll go into the timeline there. If you are creating an artifact and you didn't add the date information, it's going to be right up at the top until or unless you come into the timeline view and you drag it and put it where it belongs. You don't have to actually drag it to the correct year as you saw, because you can always adapt and change the date manually as well. And when you do that and click done, it will update it in the artifact as well.
Okay. Any other questions, folks? Those are really good questions we had there. Amy want to share what they plan to artifact first on the ephemera list. I've got a pile of cards I still need to go through. Oh, Ellen,
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, when I'm so happy someone gifted you Already Unlimited. So your membership, when you give away the 3, they're not linked. They're literally, they get to have a membership as long as you have a membership. Or if they misbehave or they don't use it or whatever it is, you can always delete them from your membership. And they'll get a very polite notice that says that for whatever reason, they don't have access to the membership anymore, and it'll give them an option and time to purchase their own membership. So they're not actually linked together. It's just that by virtue of you having one, you get to give away 3 others.
So it's really 4 memberships for a single price. And Melissa, we love that you're going to artifact cards from your grandparents over 53 years ago. That's fabulous. I wish I had cards like that.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Any other question?
Yeah. All right, folks, we want to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. This episode will be posted to our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you all want to go back and review what we went through, showing you the how-to, feel free to do that. We also have the previous episodes from this season's Evenings with Artifacts. We've covered everything from decluttering, kind of the top 20 decluttering targets with artifacts and how to artifact them, old photos and how do you share the details and preserve them with old photos. Last week was building a digital baby book using Artifacts. And then also stay tuned. You should have, if you receive our emails and blog articles, you will have seen the invite for next week, our final episode in the series. We'll be doing all things legacy with Matt Paxton, who is star of Hoarders and PBS Legacy List with Matt Paxton. So he'll be sharing his tips and tricks for how to make artifacts that really highlight your legacy and your story, that are incredibly share worthy and fun with family and friends. So please tune in for that next week. And we hope to see you there. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us. And happy artifacting. Thanks for your time tonight.